Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week, we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, or you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. Good morning. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're currently living?
Hi, everybody. My name is Charlie Haskins, and I live in Portsmouth, Ohio.
Are you from Portsmouth originally?
Yeah, I'm from the area. Grew up out in South Webster and went out to school there.
So tell me about some of your art form and what you do.
Okay. I've been working in art since I was a kid. And now I was able to make a career out of it. I teach art. I'm a K through 12 art teacher at Green local. And when it comes to my own paintings, I make kind of fantasy illustrations. I think its work is really described as whimsical, and I just kind of try to tell stories with my pictures.
Well, you do something that's like a caricature, right? That you're kind of known for.
Somebody shared with me once they thought my artwork looked like Tim Burton and Dr. Seuss kind of combined, kind of like a caricature. Yeah.
Well, and you definitely have your own style. And did you study art, or is this just something that you nurtured on your own?
Well, like I said, I was kind of raised up with it. My mother and father are both artists. I did go to school, and I have a master's in painting, but it's really been a lifelong pursuit to just learn how to be an artist and try many different mediums as I can get into. And I think over time I've kind of developed something like a recognizable style with my paintings, but there's been like a lot of trial and effort there.
I'm sure, but you definitely have your niche. So can you share with us about any projects that you've done recently? I know you did a children's book. I saw in your shop, that you had a children's book that you had done. How did that come about?
Yeah, we do have a store down on 2nd Street in Portsmouth, Ohio, and that kind of came from just kind of trying to create sort of a local venue for the arts. It's something that's really kind of changed my life and brought a lot of different kind of opportunities. One thing that as an artist, I kind of always working on something, but in our area, it's kind of hard to find those venues. And so I'm just going to try to make one for myself. I know how to make the paintings, and just kind of took a chance on opening a business where I could teach, I could make paintings and take orders. And the children's book just kind of started from there. Kind of meet different people walking through the store, and they'll come share their ideas, and I get to tell their stories that way. Either a lot of times it's through paintings on canvas, but in this case it was a children's book, and it was an inspirational story about a girl who was living with her mother, and at the end of the story she's able to kind of learn from her mother's hardships. They're homeless in the story, and because of their attitude and faith, they're able to kind of get through these hard times. That all just kind of came through taking the chance and on having like a physical location where I could, meet new people, show off what I was doing, but, kind of get to tell other people's stories.
Well, I think it's wonderful because I've seen the book, and then Portsmouth, Ohio has murals on walls, flood walls and other walls. And so can you describe for us one of your projects that had to do with a wall, an outside wall, I should say?
Yeah, I've done several projects here in Portsmouth. I've done a few where they're kind of like the interactive murals where you can kind of pose with your picture and things. And that's kind of how I got started. The area of town that we live in is called Boney Fiddle, and one of the murals I created was a fiddle with these wings off to the side. And again, that kind of just started something like that was for me at our store. But then I was contacted by the Portsmouth Unity Project to create a similar interactive mural for the area. And what we did, we took a lot of the town's local heroes, people, from Portsmouth's past, and tried to celebrate the diversity of our town. There's a famous violin player, and the area is called Boney Fiddle. So we painted him, his name's Stuff Smith, on the corner. And as he's standing there, out of his violin is kind of coming this rainbow of sound waves. And all along the sound waves are these miniature portraits of some of the people from Portsmouth. And the music notes that are coming out of the violin plays the song "A Change Is Gonna Come."
I did not know you did that one.
Okay, yeah.
I've seen the wings that had the fiddle. You're not, in fact, we've had family take pictures there, and it's kind of, stand there, and the way you stand makes you look like you have wings. So that's really cool. Yeah. And then about a year ago, you did one.
Yeah, I was really honored to get the opportunity to add onto a different section of the flood walls by Portsmouth's new skate park. It's kind of like one of my storytelling paintings. I do a kind of reoccurring character of the man in the moon, and it's kind of a large length of the flood wall, a moon hovering over a small town. And I guess my inspiration kind of like behind that is the mural itself. There are kind of two sides, and one side of it has Ohio's slogan, like "Find it here," and there are all these hidden things that you can look for in the moon mural. And so it's kind of like anything that you are looking for, you can kind of find it. Even, like the man on the moon itself, you can kind of see his face if you want to see it there. And
it's very interesting. So you've canvas, you've done books, and the walls. Are there any other mediums that you've done that you could share with us?
Yeah. Let me see. I like to do sculpture when I can, either clay or one of my things I kind of recently got into is making sculptures out of cardboard. I did a workshop in Chattanooga, Tennessee with Wayne White. He's done things like he designed the sets for Pee Wee's Playhouse. He did music videos for like Smashing Pumpkins, and he's like done these really cool paintings of his own, these word paintings. And he was in Chattanooga, and I got to work along with him on, they did this really cool project for their town where they celebrate the history of Chattanooga through his sculptures. And what he does is he uses simple everyday things like cardboard and hot glue to make these sculptures and do like paper mache and things. And it was just such a great opportunity to be able to, I learned from the master and kind of do a few of those sculptures here at home. I did a giant. Well, it felt giant. It was like a life-size, like taxidermy moose head for the wall here at the studio, and I don't know. It just it's kind of different, but the same thing, I guess. Like working with some familiar things like paint, but working in 3D is really something I like to do when I can.
So I think I've seen something that was either a house or a castle sculpture.
Yeah, I think we might have it on display at our store there. It's been a year or two ago now. I did this project called Moon Songs with a friend of mine, Josiah Whitley, and I made a book with him where for about a year we did this exchange where he'd write a song and I'd do a painting of it. I'd make a painting and he'd write a song based off of it. So we released this book with all the paintings, all the songs, all the lyrics. And then we also did like this music video for the release, and everything was made out of cardboard in it. And it did have a kind of a cardboard house and train and everything that kind of went around the house.
Wow, that is so interesting. So you did a music video as well. So
it was really fun. Anything over the years, I've learned that those collaborations have really beneficial to me. Well, working with Josiah, working with organizations like the Unity Project here in Portsmouth, just like make things or think different ways that you never would have really thought on your own, and things just kind of grow and are more creative. I think having other people kind of involved that way.
That's one of the things. The more I talk to people, is their process, and then when you join with other creative people, it just 1 and 1 is more than 2 or 3 or more. It's just really grows. This podcast is called When We Were Planted, and I always ask people what that means to them, what that phrase or quote means to them.
Well, I think that's kind of maybe relatable to me, like in a way that was like when I started, I moved away for a while and got to missing Portsmouth and family and the river and everything. And when I moved back, it was kind of like how lucky I, really am to be in a place like this, and to kind of, really know what your home is until you've been away for a little while. Or even just be able to get to see the Ohio River every day is something to kind of take for granted sometimes. And so like when I came back, it was kind of look around as like maybe kind of make your own opportunities a little bit, or like find those areas where you can succeed. My journey with opening up my own shop or just being able to do custom artwork has really kind of been a dream come true. And it started off in like a small place. Like we planted the small seed of like having a booth in an antique store, and I had a few paintings and a box of vinyl records and books and things that I would have for sale and meet people, and like it just kind of grew and grew from there. And it's brought me so many different opportunities, like to work with other artists or these projects, but it's also brought really important people into my life. I even met my wife, through the store and some of the open mic poetry that we used to do. So maybe the stereotype that, like goes along with just like being at home, that, everybody kind of knows who you are, and it's hard for you to succeed. I think they, like said that about, so many people, kind of got to move away to get famous or to have anything. And I don't really think it's the full picture, that being kind of bloom where you're planted means, I think, to take care of yourself, find out who you are, and share that with other people and just kind of nurture it. Like, and that's going to happen no matter really like where you're at. So you might as well just kind of be yourself and share your love for life.
So before I forget, you've won some awards.
Oh, yeah. Let me think here. The Portsmouth Area Arts Council gave me Artist of the Year award, which was really great and kind of unexpected. I do enter a few competitions that the Southern Ohio Museum has a competition that they do biannually called Cream of the Crop. I won a few awards there for paintings, and yeah, it's always kind of a nice thing, like feather in the cap kind of a thing, but it's always, I don't know, they kind of have to do the work first and then find out where it fits in.
So can you tell us a little bit about what words of wisdom that you would offer someone that wants to do what you are doing or have done? What would you say to them?
Sure. I think that just showing up and working is the best thing that you can do. When I was a lot younger, I knew I wanted to be an artist, but I kind of wanted more of like an overnight success. I used to work in a totally different style, like where I'd paint people I knew from life or paint from photos, and it was really realistic. And I was painting pictures and writing papers about them in school, but I think when it came down to it, I really didn't know what my paintings were about. And, you know, I kind of could read into them a little bit here and there, but because I tried to force meaning into them, there was a lot less meaning there. So advice I would have for anybody that wanted to do something creative is let the work tell you what it is, rather than sitting down and saying, like, I'm going to make this kind of a picture, or it's going to mean this, and it's going to be great. I think the best thing that you can do is just show up for work, and just kind of like, if inspiration finds you working, it'll take care of everything. But I know the times I've sat down and tried to force a good idea or a concept, not only is the painting kind of worse for it, I have a harder time. I'm more frustrated than when I can just show up and kind of make some scribble marks and say, oh, that kind of reminds me of this, or it looks like this, or, you know, that could be read two different ways. And I kind of discover what things mean as they go. And I think as a young artist, I probably would have saved me some frustration to kind of let go of some of the control, or felt less of a need for control.
I have to ask, because I know you do a lot of custom and, you know, where you're hired to do a certain project. Do you find those harder to do than just your freelance, your ideas and that sort of thing? Is it more challenging for you to do the custom designs as opposed to your own designs?
Each job is kind of different. Working with, you know, like whatever the idea is or the goal, or even the client, you know, some people say just do your thing, and it will be like I'm making something that's just all on my own, but other people really want to kind of be involved, or so each time it's a little different. The thing that I guess I was a little nervous about starting was there was a while there, that transition where I was working from realism into like this whimsical style, where I had to feel like I had to explain like what my artwork was going to look like, or, you know, like they would give me photos and I'd have to have this kind of speech ready about, I'm going to make this the way I think, not the way that it looks in this photo. You know, a lot of the custom work, I try to say, like, you've already got the photo. Let me give you something that the photo doesn't do, or somebody, you know, like, let's combine all the photos and make a new picture. And I find the more I've been doing this, the less I have to kind of give that speech, and it's kind of like a great thing for me to be able to do that. I'm so fortunate to have that kind of support from people that they kind of will take a chance on me, like, we want to see your vision on this. And so it's something that the process is a little different each time, but it kind of, you know, it's more of a collaboration too, that and really, like, I guess it all goes back to telling a story. They'll give me all their puzzle pieces and I'll put them in an order that kind of makes sense to tell whatever the story is, or put emphasis on whatever part of the story means the most to them.
That means they trust you with your process that you're doing. So did you have any role models in your field?
You know, I always kind of mention my dad. Like, he was an artist, and he worked as a screen printer and had all his kids working on different logos and designs when he would come home from work, and we get to see those processes as he, you know, made T-shirts and signs and stuff for people. But the older I get, the more I think about how much my artwork kind of reflects what my mom made. She did a lot of calligraphy, has a lot of strong line work, and most of everything I do now has some kind of calligraphic mark that wraps around and outlines the figures and the paintings. And I see more of her influence on me, even though it's like something that we don't talk a whole lot about, or, you know, Dad usually gets the credit. Like, I see more of my mom's hand, like, in what I've done. As far as like artists outside, you know, the family circle, like Van Gogh's always been, he's my favorite painter. He was the one that really kind of maybe influenced the break from painting from realism and photorealism. Just that the thing I liked about his work, or one of the things I liked about his work, is that you can instantly tell who created it. You know, it's like every little brush stroke that he had is like a signature, you know, somebody's handwriting. You know, that was him that crafted it. And so when I kind of broke away from realist painting, I really kind of just, any scrap of paper I had, I would try to sit down and try to say, like, okay, like, not how does that look? Like, how would I draw that? What can I exaggerate? How can I bend and manipulate the form? And so kind of when I first moved back to Ohio, I just kept this catalog. I mean, some of it, I call it a catalog, but some of it's just drawings I did on receipts and napkins and stuff, because everywhere I was at, I was trying to, like, learn how to redraw everything. And I think a lot of that had to do with just trying to look for a sense of authorship.
Interesting. Well, Charlie, it's been very interesting talking to you. And I had no idea that your parents were artists. And other than being in your shop, and you've done some work for me as well, I think I saw you at the university, Shawnee State University. There was some event last year that you had set up and stuff, but I had no idea that your parents were. So, well, it's been very nice talking to you and sharing your process and your art. And I hope, one final question though. what is next for Charlie?
What's next? I feel like I'm always asking myself that. One thing I'm working on right now is to have an exhibit right now in Athens, and we have one coming up at OU Ironton in October. So I'm making up a bunch of new paintings and some of those cardboard sculptures I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I always do paint classes, and we do a couple demonstrations. The Bony Fiddle Final Friday, I think in May, they're doing a street art fair. But really, most of that, if anybody's kind of interested in seeing some of these images and things, I have a website. Is my name, HaskinsHouse.com, HASKINS.
Charlie Haskins House.
Just Haskins House.
Oh,
and
okay.
We have the same Instagram and everything to kind of keep up with some of those things that we're doing next. Is really looking forward to some of those exhibits.
Cool. Well, as things come up for you and you want to share them, just let us know and we'll definitely have you back on. And again, it's been great having you. And so this is the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, sponsored by Never Too Late Cafe. And I'm your host, Laura Womack, and I'm saying bye for now. And thanks again, Charlie, for being a guest with us today.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
All right. Bye-bye now.